Good morning. We'll go ahead and start the meeting, February 11th, Board Insurance Committee meeting. Let's first of all stand for the pledge and then followed by a moment of silence, and then we'll get into the agenda. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're going to go ahead and start off with 1.1, roll call. We'll start off with Mr. Hidalgo, Mr. Badgerow, and newest to the committee, Mr. Edmond. All right, so we do have a quorum. Very first item following the roll call is 2.1, selection of Board Insurance Committee chairperson. Every year, regardless, the president of the school board appoints these members, and we have to select who that chairperson is. It could be, it could not be the same person, but we have to do that to make sure that we know who is going to be leading these committees and leading us in the direction that we need to. So first of all, let me just kind of open up nominations for anyone that would be interested in board insurance chairperson. So I'll open up nominations at this time.
I'd like to nominate Jeremy Hidalgo for Board Insurance Committee Chairperson.
All right, so Mr. Jeremy Hidalgo. Any other nominations? All right, no more nominations. I'll go ahead and close the nominations and congratulate Mr. Hidalgo, and I will pass the gavel to him.
Thank you. And welcome to the committee, Mr. Edmond.
Thank you, sir.
So let's start off, I guess thank you, sir. I guess it's already been announced, but let's just make it official, make sure that the public knows that the Board Insurance Committee is now the Board Insurance and Finance Committee. So today, only items we're going to talk about regarding finance are going to be insurance related, but moving forward, we're going to be discussing financial matters as well. And so we'll be relying on my fellow committee members to help to bring those items to the agenda moving forward. All right. Item 2.2, review and approval of Lafayette Parish School Board Insurance meeting minutes from December 18th, Board Insurance Committee meeting. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes for the December meeting?
I make a motion the committee approve the minutes from the Board Insurance Committee meeting on December 18th, 2024.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any public comment regarding that motion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes or no?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Badgerow?
Yes.
Mr. Hidalgo?
Yes. All right, motion carries. All right, today's going to be a relatively short meeting. There's a lot of reasons. I'm going to let the professionals explain that. Let's move into 2.3, discussion and action regarding the Gallagher report. If we can have the Gallagher team and or Ms. LaBeouf come forward.
Good morning. My name is Tony Murray with Gallagher.
It is. Can we get some more volume?
My name is Tony Murray with Gallagher Insurance. Okay.
Good morning.
All right. My name is Tony Murray with Gallagher. And we're going to proceed with the agenda today. We're going to do our monthly financial monitoring report. This will be through the end of the year, through December. And then my colleague Matthew Ardoin will be going over the annual service calendar. So if you move to page 4, this is showing the financial monitoring summary through the plan year, which is January through December. So just a reminder, of course, I'm going to show you on a fiscal year in a moment, but this is the plan year, January through December. This is summarized. I rolled up all of these to try to get this on the screen bigger, and I'm still seeing that it's just so tiny. We do have the full report in the appendix for any particular details. What this shows on this middle column is year to date. So this is through the end of the year, and this will show you the subscribers, the members, what we call our contract size as far as how many dependents, and then we see our Humana retiree members. So if you take these numbers, divide them by 12, that'll give you your monthly average. Then we see our total medical claims, pharmacy claims, rebates and subsidies, along with specific reimbursements from our reinsurance. The middle column is a PEPM. These are per employee per month. That's divided by the subscriber number. Over to the right is a PMPM, or a per member per month, and that is these amounts on the left divided by the member count. What we see here is our total claim payments of $54 million, and then you see the prior year net claim payments. And then we see our fixed costs, which I did leave the line items for administrative and stop loss. It does not include the remaining fixed costs, so our total fixed costs. And then we have our total self-funded Blue Cross plan costs. Great, thank you. We have our,
I don't want you to read every single one of them, but
Okay.
at least the total. Read those into the record.
the absolute total. The total health plan cost is $60,708,216.
Thank you.
And that includes the Humana Medicare Advantage premiums. We then see the employee contributions, and then that's the net employer cost, or the net cost to LPSS. What we see down here is the LPSS funding allocation, and what that is that's when you take the employer premium and the employee premium and push those together. That comes up with our total funding of $54 million, and then our actual cost is $60 million. So we show the plan, just based on its funding, has a deficit of $6 million. I do want to point out these two green bars at the bottom. This is the the ending fund balance after the adjustments from the prior year, plus the transfer from the general fund. These were in July. And so if you added those to this, which is the way your financials show, you'll actually see that your plan is running at a $2 million surplus. We're distinguishing the difference just to make sure you understand the way the plan is funded. Okay? Everything on the right, or a rolling 12, is going to match this because we're looking at 12 months. But if we were looking at November or September, for example, this one on the right would be a 12-month period, just so we could compare those side by side. So you can look at that as a rolling 12. What we have on the right is our combined plan expenses, and this just shows you that we're running at about 40% of our cost is pharmacy, 55% is medical. This next page is the fiscal year. So this is July through December. And again, everything is set up the same. What you're going to see on the right here is the rolling 12. So these numbers actually match that column that we were just on the page. So if you want to look at this, what we're looking at on a plan year on the right, fiscal year on the left, how you can compare them is look at the PMPMs, the per member per months. So when we're in the self-funded health plan, the per member per months are based on just the members here. When we get past the Humana Medicare Advantage, we then see these numbers are adding up all the members, which is the 114,000 plus the 4,808, or if we're looking at the fiscal year, 56,000 plus the 2,547. Now, the total health plan cost fiscal year to date is $36,762,390. The net cost to the employer, to LPSS, is $28,786,802. We're throwing in a line here. If you remember, we did a update on your budget, or we did a reforecast right when we took over the plan. And so using those numbers, this would have been our Gallagher recommended budget. You had already set budget at that time. And so you could compare the LPSS to the Gallagher recommended here. And then we see actual cost. I will note that looking at a fiscal year, we're only looking at 6 months, and a lot of the rebates and subsidies will now come into play, or for whatever reason, they're usually booked in the next couple of quarters. So we're looking at a surplus, at a deficit of $9,354,000 when we're looking at just how the plan is funded based on the premiums collected. And then we see the 2 green lines again below. Just as I showed on the previous page, that was the funding allocated in July. This graph on the right indicates the same as what we saw on the plan year. Are there any questions before I go into the breaking down by classes? Okay. The last BIC meeting, Mr. Bergeron asked for us to break these down by class, and so that's what we're about to see. This is the actives, and I'll just go straight down here to the bottom. We get down here, we're looking at a deficit of $4.7 million. I took this amount here of from the amounts that have been allocated from the general fund outside of the premium. I took those on the previous page, divided them by the members, and then I'm allocating those by member to these next 2 classes, just so you can see. So if you added these 2 up, you would be at a surplus for the active class. Now again, this is on a fiscal year basis, so that's 6 months. But we're looking at a $4.7 million deficit here, 28% pharmacy claims over here on the right. The next class I'm going to show you is the retirees no Medicare. So this is not the plus 65s with Medicare. This is the retirees no Medicare. This also includes people who retire and return to work. And this is looking at a surplus of a deficit, of 3.8 million. And again, here would be the amounts allocated, because you see it's a smaller member count. These would be the amounts allocated from the general fund.
When you say no Medicare, you mean no Medicare Part B, correct?
No Medicare Part B. It also includes some of those that have they don't have A.
Okay.
Yeah, these are people. When I show you the next class, which is the plus 65s, or basically the with Medicare, that is the folks who have A and B.
So retirees, so this thing, retirees, no Medicare also is anyone under 65.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And let me
And-
jump in
Yes,
right
sir.
quick too, to remind everyone who's here, if you have a question, we're gonna do the same thing that we've done in the past. The podium there on the back side of the room has a notepad. If you'd like to ask a question, feel free to walk over there. Please put your name down and write your question down, and then before the end of the presentation or before the end of the meeting, we'll get those questions brought here. Thanks, Tony.
And as you're going to see on here, on the combined expenses, it's 37% pharmacy claims here. And then here is the retirees plus 65. Again, this is through December, July through December. And they're running at a deficit of 646,000. Of course, if you add in the general fund allocations on a PMPM basis, there would be a surplus. And again, just because in the case of Medicare, remember, they're not running their medical claims. Most of their medical claims are not running through. It's only the plan is operating as secondary. And so what happens is the majority of the folks that are plus 65 are mainly using the pharmacy benefit. And you actually see on the EGWIP subsidies here, it's highly subsidized as well from the federal government. So we're looking at 69% pharmacy utilization here.
All right, question.
Yes.
All right, so I'm looking at the per member per month costs.
Okay.
all right? There's some numbers that stick out to me. So actives per member per month is 130.77,
Okay,
right? In deficit, so deficit is the
deficit.
bottom line.
Yes, sir.
130.77. Retirees with no Medicare, 523.43 per member deficit. And then retirees with Medicare, $40.69.
Yes, sir.
All right, I understand that retirees without Medicare are gonna cost us more. Do we have a reasoning as to why those numbers between actives and retirees with no Medicare, or that discrepancy? That much of a discrepancy? I know
Sure.
there's gonna be one, but.
This is twofold, so I want to answer your question, but I would actually like to direct you to a different number instead of the deficit number for the
Okay.
moment. If you look at the total health plan cost number, so on actives, we see 593.78.
Okay.
On the retirees with no Medicare, we see 980.26, making sure you're following me.
Yes, sir.
And then on the plus 65s, we see total health plan costs of 497.61.
Yes.
It's better to compare these numbers, and I'm going to explain why.
Okay.
One of the issues is the way the premiums are allocated, and I'm not talking about what we're charging the employees. I'm just saying in the way that the rates had been set in the past, everyone was pretty much on a similar premium, and your PE rates, what we call your premium equivalent rates, were not set to the from a budgetary standpoint, where if you put all that money in a pot and pay the claims out, it goes net net. You chose to, and it's not wrong, it's just a different way of doing it, you chose to fund from the general fund to make up that difference. So the reason we took it, we're showing it like this, is to be able to point out that and take that away, because we don't want you to look at the surplus and the deficit as the indicator. We want you to look at the cost.
Gotcha.
Because cost is cost, right?
Okay.
And so, so if that answers that piece, but now back to your question of the differences between the three, and there is a reason. So actives, typically younger. We're going to look at a couple of things, but look at here at what we see on actives. I look at a couple of things. I look at contract size, first of all. That says 2.04. That typically means that per every contract, there's 2.04 people enrolled. And because you're going to have a younger group in the actives, but we're also going to have more dependents, right? Spouses and children, okay? The reasoning on the, this is going to be this is your non-retirees, of course, and a younger group, so that's why that cost is lower at $593.78 PMPM. You are going to have a few, every now and then you'll have a neonatal birth that's like $900,000. Those are your big claims in that arena, okay? Or maybe someone on a high medication. On the retirees with no Medicare, so this is going to be usually folks that are under 65. We do have a few that are over 65 because they aren't eligible for Medicare because of that situation. But it's mostly folks that are retired but not yet eligible for Medicare. And so, again, aging in that situation, and what we see here is the leading driver in the cost here is pharmacy. And that's typically, you're going to need, that's where folks start to get more expensive. But I do want to point you out to the contract size. We do see the contract size going down 1.6. That's typically indicating that we really just have employees and spouses. Not only, but that's something else I look at, or we look at, excuse me. And then on the plus 65s, we're seeing here is our contract of 1.38, so it's even smaller, right, on a contract size, because this is typically just employees only or employee and spouse. And what you're seeing here is let me go back up here to actives. You see it's 438.36 for medical and 181 on pharmacy. So we see it's a higher medical than pharmacy. We get to the plus 6, or the no Medicares, we're at 591 and 367. So both are higher, medical and the pharmacy are higher. When we get to the retirees plus 65, we see this flip. And we see that the medical claims are actually 205, and then the pharmacy are 558. So the pharmacy are the highest out of everybody. But we also have down here is you have about, I think it's, well, effective January, it'll be about 600 and some, but right now, as of December, you had about 400 and some that are on the Medicare Advantage, it's a capitated rate, right? You just had that premium, and they're not using the plan for pharmacy. That covers their pharmaceutical. So you have some that are carved off there, and that's part of your other reason for your lower cost on the plus 65s. So your highest cost population is is the, which is a challenge to a lot of plans. And that's where we're going to look at that, what Melody always says is our population management.
That was gonna be my follow-up to it, is like, all right, so we've identified
Mhm.
some numbers that are outside the normal range, like what are we doing to address that? We're gonna talk about that in a little bit, probably.
Sure.
Fantastic.
Great questions. Any other questions on the financials?
Any questions on the notepad over there?
Okay.
Okay.
And I just I will bring a couple of things that are in the appendix, our full FMR, as we call it, financial monitoring report, where everything is in detail. But I do want to take you to a couple of pages of this that I hope you will find interesting as well. And that starts on page, this would be page 13. This shows you your top 10 inpatient and outpatient facilities by amount paid. So billed is, we list it, but the most important number here is paid. That's what you've paid. And then this shows what that percentage is of the total medical claims. Okay, and then each one of these providers here. Then we see our top outpatient facilities, exact same thing here as well. We then see under page 14, and these are some reports that our consultants will use, by the way, in the sense that when they come back to present these strategies that we've been talking about, or whether it's a population management or other solutions, these are some of the reports that they're looking at. So this is showing you the top inpatient diagnoses by amount paid. We then see over here also that your top outpatient paid diagnoses. And then scrolling down here to, this would be page 17, these show our top drugs by amount paid. And our plan does not cover weight loss drugs. We do still see the GLP-1s growing, and that's your Mounjaros, your Ozempics. We're seeing those creeping up here in this plan. But this shows you that these top 10 drugs are 50% of your pharmacy spend, okay? They're also responsible for most of your rebates. Now, we don't know those rebates. We're going to assume on a couple of these, like the Mounjaro, the Ozempics, and the Humiras, we know those are about 40% of that cost comes back in a form of a rebate. We don't know exactly, but that's our estimate. And so this shows you that area, and then we see the next page here, or the bottom part of this, which is the number of drugs by count. I watch, this is something I personally watch to make sure that we're not seeing any brand name drugs starting to creep in here. Do we see something that's starting to explode that we need to take a look at? But that was looking all right as well, and that's only 2% of your utilization. So that's just something I just want to invite you to take a look at when you get a chance as well.
So one thing is just on the report itself, page like, I don't know, just pull page 3. So when I pulled this report Sunday night, I think it was, to look at, these numbers are quite small for my eyes. So I'm going to assume our retirees too would have problems reading them.
Yeah.
Can we adjust that just to make sure?
We are working on it. And I apologize. That's why we did summarize it on that other page. And I saw the print quality is, your report is a little larger than most. So it may break over 2 pages. It might break over 2 pages. So we'll do that. Yes, sir. Noted.
And let me turn my mic back on so everyone can hear me. On the cost paid out per hospital, so the list on page 13. All right. And this is just for me to understand the data better. Why, for like Lourdes versus Lafayette General, the first 2 on the providers list are year-to-date top hospitals, why is the amount billed different and the percentages different on amount paid? Like why did we pay $20 million to Lafayette General and only get back $3.2 million? Why did we pay Lourdes $17.4 million only get back $4.8 million? Like what's the math behind that? Like how does that work out? Is it just number of claims and the claims get paid out differently, or?
So it's based on the agreements with the provider. We also don't know, looking in there, we don't know what the different claims are. So for example, they might have a different discount on knee surgery between the 2 places, but one pays differently on hearts. I will tell you, in this case, The build, you almost have to throw it out as a fantasy number because they're only going to pay what they're going to pay based on the contract. So I think I know where you're going on it, but I would just say that based on this data, there's nothing we could.
I was just
we could
curious. I
explain.
figured it was different claims
Yeah.
or whatever. I was just curious. I appreciate it. That's it for me.
Any other questions for Tony on financials before we jump into the annual service calendar?
It's possible it'll come up. I'm not sure if there are going to be any financial questions, and I know that what I'm going to want from you guys, we always appreciate all of the data, but two things. Number one, on these sheets where you know ahead of time that you can't read it, at least digitally put it on a legal form. I'm not asking you to print it. I mean, you do us a tremendous favor by, I say favor, you do us a good job by printing it, but put it to where we can read it. And then I'm going to want you to, I know that you went through these documents quickly, but I am going to want you to recap year to date. I don't need to know about calendar year.
Okay.
We need to know. We know. I'm more concerned about year to date, where we stand today as it relates to this budget on the numbers. Not just a deficit. I know that you're going to have a hard time necessarily forecasting right now. However, you can give us a little bit of information on what the remainder of the year is going to look like based on past trends, based on the history of claims, claims spike in the summer, et cetera. So before you leave, do that, because that's the number I want to write down right here. And then I can always reference the thousands of numbers in the report if I need to. But we're not gonna take questions from the pad, if there are any, until after the presentation.
Sounds good. So right here you have your 2025 annual service calendar. I'll be highlighting February and March, all those that are in bold. As 2024 year-end review, Tony just went over the final budget rates for 7/1/25 and contribution models due for committee meeting. That's something Tony and team are working on to get to the next BIC meeting for March. The RFP for the TPA and pharmacy is something we've already started working on as well. Hoping to have more information for you for the March BIC meeting. Any Medicare benefit programs for 2026 will be coming in March as well. Also, we're setting up educational meetings with Humana and SHIP. That'll be coming soon as well. And SHIP, which is the Medicare Insurance Committee. For March 2025, Lantern, which is the surgical carve-out center, will begin on 3/1/25. More strategic planning meetings will be coming in March as well. Any stop-loss reconciliation, which is looking at your reimbursements, making sure all that's okay. We'll be looking at that in March. The ERAP meeting as well we'll be attending, and then we'll be looking at additional point solutions in March as well. Any questions on any of the February or March initiatives?
No, but I do want to tell my fellow committee members that this calendar right here, this is a very, very important document. There's just a lot of moving parts right now, finally, thankfully, that are going to either bring us value or would just throw it out the window. So I would encourage you guys to keep an eye on this.
Do you see anything missing here that we need to add to it right now for March? Or?
Y'all got $4 or $5 million y'all want to throw in on this? Take.
Anything else from you, Tony? You want to add?
Nope, nothing other than the recap that Mr. Hildago's asked for. I'm ready to go over that when you're ready. All right, so this is the current budgeting year, or the fiscal year, and the recap would be that our total health plan costs right now, we're at $36,762,390, or $617.84 PMPM. We are at a deficit of $9,354,990, or $157.22. You're asking on the forecast, our forecast on this is about $576.63 PMPM, is what our original budget was. And we still are confident in that original budget number. So it's going to be, I would say that we're going to continue to see we're at our total health plan cost right now of $617. We anticipate this right now just because we don't have the rebates in, and you were talking about the spikes and whatnot that happen. We're going to stick by the 576.63 PM. I mean, when it all evens out at the end of the year, we think it's going to still be around that number. Now we just got the revised counts from open enrollment. Our actuaries are currently working on the projections for the next year, along with the plan changes that you all voted in last year being part of that projection. So we hope to be sharing that with you soon.
Ms. Christie, do we have any questions? Superintendent, do you have anything? Ms. LaBeouf? Ms. Gardner?
Mr. Hidalgo, we just wanted to, I know that we've been in the conversations with Gallagher regarding a insurance workshop, just to be able to keep the board informed or the superintendent informed of what's going on prior to some of the meetings of the day-to-day workings of the contract and the day-to-day work of Gallagher. It's something they've done in other districts, so looks like we'll do our first one maybe March 12th. Just to be able to do the workings of what's going on in our office, where we are in the timeline, any questions that anyone would have, the board member or the superintendent. It just allows us to regroup and collaborate before we come to a BIC, so we could be on the same page and make these meetings swifter and move faster. That way we don't linger or you need further information brought to the BIC meeting.
Thank you. It's important, I think, to keep the board members, especially those who don't have the luxury of following these meetings, abreast this very important, complex topic. Board members, this was a fairly short meeting, but I'll tell you that I don't think it's going to be the case next month. So just to give you a heads up, there's going to be a lot more on next month's agenda, more data, more to go through. Of course, certainly Ms. LaBeouf is going to have her data. Just for clarity, the reason that you didn't have a report today is because a lot of the numbers have not been available yet. First of the year is always the case, lingering numbers. So next month, it's going to be a lot more information throughout the month. If you guys have any questions, I know I don't need to tell you this, but please reach out to Ms. LaBeouf. Please reach out to Gallagher. Call on me if you need me to do anything. I'll try to stay very engaged throughout the month outside of our meetings to be prepared. So you can rely on me if you need to.
And Ms. Hidalgo, for the board, so the board members know that they're new, the admin's new. Ms. LaBeouf does a recap usually of where we are, but we are waiting on, with the premium increase and with open enrollment, we were able to run our numbers for our current active employees of those who switched in revenue, but we're waiting for retirees. It hit their check in the January. So the reason we don't have the up-to-date numbers is because we're waiting, because it came through pension in January. So we're on an extra delay because of the changes, the increase, the number of people who have gone over to Humana to get the accurate information. We didn't want to deliver information that could be misleading.
Members, y'all have anything? With that said, this meeting is now adjourned.